Call the meeting to order. Savage Economic Development Commission meeting, Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. Could you call a roll, please, Regina?
Yes. Commissioner McIntosh.
Here.
Commissioner Suleiman.
Yes.
Chair Erickson.
Here.
Commissioner Huss.
Here.
Commissioner Zastro.
Here.
Commissioner or Vice Chair Corrigan.
Here.
Commissioner Rasmussen and Commissioner Sims, both absent. Commissioner Suleiman, you'll be a voting member today.
Okay.
Twice in a row.
Yeah.
You all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Any additions, deletions, modifications to the agenda? Staff?
None from staff.
None? Anybody at the table?
Nope.
We have consent to move forward with the agenda.
Yes.
We do. Let's move forward. Approval of the minutes from the February 19th meeting. Everybody should have them in front of them. Any changes?
None from staff.
There's one typo at the top of page 3. I'm sure that spell check will catch that. So, have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Minutes have been approved. Move on to item 4, general business. Providing a recommendation on proposal relating to a land sale generally north of 130th Street West and east of Dakota Avenue. Regina.
Great. Thank you, Chair, members of the Commission. So this may look somewhat familiar to you. Back in November, some of our Commission members who were on the Commission at the time were able to provide input on a request for proposal, a draft request for proposal that we had put together, and subsequently that went to City Council. As well as to eventually posted on our city website and a number of different platforms to get the word out of land that is for sale. So just to step back, history, in 1971, the city acquired right-of-way. This particular area, again, as described by the chair, essentially just west of where the library sits today. The purpose of acquiring this right-of-way was to make a connection for the existing County Road 27, eventually all the way up to Highway 13 to make a connection through the community. We do have other connections that are north-south connections like Quinton, Lynn, and then 13 that connects eventually up to 101 and 169. So there are other north-south connections. This particular connection is, over the years, was observed to be very difficult to make the connection due to the topography and due to the DNR fen that encumbers the area, as well as private property. For example, Fabcon is one of the companies that owns a large area adjacent to Highway 13, and to make that connection, it would require to acquire property from Fabcon and just bifurcate their operations, essentially. So recently, and I'll go to the timeline. So in late 2024, the City Council had brought this up as a work session item, and further at a City Council meeting, ended up authorizing the vacation of right-of-way. So what that does is basically allows it to be put into usable land. There's a process that the city needs to go through to develop that land. So we're going through that process right now. The city had the option, we could either sell it just on the open market, put a for sale sign up, list it, and put a price and obtain offers that way, or we could go through a request for a proposal process where we kind of set parameters of what we want to see, and then receive those proposals and then rank them based off of a set of criteria. So that's the route we ended up going. So again, the EDC met in November, provided input on that RFP. It was issued, and through this process, and I'll go back to the mapping slide, the land that the city owned, that former right-of-way, was not zoned and guided. So in order to construct on land, it needs to be properly zoned and guided. So our planning staff went through the process of re-guiding and rezoning that land. So they went in front of Planning Commission and then eventually City Council and the Metropolitan Council to change the land use from right-of-way to a multifamily high-density designation, and then the zoning to a planned mixed development, which is the same as what the adjacent properties are to the east and west. So whenever we look at rezoning and re-guiding land, we want to make sure that it's consistent or transitions with the neighboring properties or surrounding area. Now, fast forward, City Council approved the zoning and comprehensive plan amendment. The Metropolitan Council also approved the comp plan amendment. So now it's ready to essentially be built upon. It's close to being shovel ready at this point. So as we're going through this process, there's a lot of dates in here, but eventually the request for proposal closed on January 31st. We did receive one proposal. Should back up. During this process, we also wanted to see what was the value of the property. We hadn't kind of a ballpark idea, but nothing, set in stone. So we did hire an appraiser to appraise the property to determine what the value could be. We wanted to make sure that we're going to get fair market value if we're going to sell this land. So the appraisal did come back. It's within your packet, and it's approximately $60,000 was the approximate value of the land. Okay, so fast forward, January 31st, the RFP was due. We received one proposal. The proposal we received was a combo proposal from Carl Bond and MWF Properties. So Carl Bond owns the properties on either side, and the properties further to the west, west of the MASH development, west of that particular area. So owns a lot of land within the area, again, owns the properties that straddle either side. So he partnered with multifamily developer MWF to propose two multifamily buildings with 135 units within each building, 4 stories, underground parking, and surface parking as well. So they do utilize the city, former city right-of-way, the city land, to place the buildings in a manner that would not be able to happen if the land was still bifurcated with that city right-of-way. So if you can imagine, if let's see if my arrow shows up here, if this was still right-of-way, they would have to set back the building so that it would be further away from the right-of-way, and the parking in the building couldn't be located in that location. So this, by acquiring the land, it assists with the layout and flow of their development. Within their proposal, because this is very conceptual at this level, they provided examples, not renderings of the exterior, but examples of the style that they would be looking for should they submit for a development application once they work out assuming if this moves forward, a purchase agreement and what they would be proposing at the development stage level. These are some examples in Burnsville, newly built apartments within the heart of the city area of Burnsville, just off of Nicollet and south of Highway 13, north of Burnsville Parkway. And then the interior example is just an example of the finishes that one could expect within the units in the common space. Because this was an RFP, and again, before the Economic Development Commission and the council, we wanted to set some goals and priorities for future development within the city land. So within the report and then on these slides, went through an exercise to note if it meets, doesn't meet, or if we just need more information. Some things are unknown at this time if it meets or doesn't meet, or it might meet some criteria but not all. So one of the items was, does it demonstrate an increase to tax base? It would, because you're adding structures that are there that wouldn't be there today. The developer is estimating that it could generate up to $900,000 in annual property taxes. Multifamily housing does generate they are valuable from a property tax standpoint, and so this versus, say, a trail or it wouldn't generate dollars back, or maybe even a retail building wouldn't generate the same value in dollars back as a multi-story apartment complex. The next item that we evaluated was, does the project meet, is it feasible? Does it meet market demand? And the particular developer, MWF, does have a track history of building and completing projects within the metro. They've built a project here in Savage. They're currently building within the metro area. They also cited a study which Scott County produced, working, I believe, with Maxfield Research, that does indicate the need for additional housing units within the area. So there is expected demand and population growth based off of studies and what's happening in the surrounding communities. The other item was maximize density on the site while meeting land use and zoning requirements. The net density appears to be met. This is an exercise that the planning staff goes through. The parking does not appear to meet city code. Right now, we're going through a zoning code process, and we do envision that we will be lowering our parking standards. Took a look at what what city council could potentially be approving based off of our draft city code, and it still would not meet that requirement. So those are some things that, if this does move to development stage, that we would want to work out with the developer to make sure that there's adequate parking on site for the residents. There's not a lot of areas, it's not a very urban area where you have direct access to transit or bus service or on-street parking like you would, say, in Minneapolis or a different area. So we want to make sure that there's adequate parking on site. There are some other city code requirements that we just don't know at this time that would need to be evaluated. I should note that this particular property is within what we call a planned mixed development. So there is some flexibility that could be instilled in the proposed development going forward. So that kind of like some, what are the benefits if city council ultimately feels comfortable in relaxing some standards, what are the benefits to the community and the surrounding area for allowing flexibility? And that's something that could be negotiated going forward. The site does provide additional housing, which was a requirement. One of the items that we added, economic development provided some input on, was incorporating some potential commercial development within the proposal. The proposal that we received, they noted that they didn't feel it was feasible to include commercial within the area, that the area would, by adding additional units, it may spur commercial development within the surrounding area, but they didn't feel like commercial was a good fit for this particular area just based off of the surrounding area, and cited that perhaps more in a urban or transit kind of focused area that maybe commercial would be a better fit integrated into the building or the development. And then they also noted the proximity to other commercial services. We have Hy-Vee and Lifetime and other commercial development just up the road. Does the development propose high-quality architecture and site design? Some of this is really unknown. We don't have the specifics. It appears to look nice, but what are those materials, and are they of high quality? We don't really know at this time. Does it incorporate mobility features and connections? There is some bike storage. Bike racks are proposed for the tenants and visitors. Sidewalk connections are anticipated within the development, and then a public trail is anticipated as well as part of this development. Placemaking experiences, there's some standard amenities, I would call them, a fire pit, seating arrangements. They also cite the potential public trail. However, elements of public art aren't proposed. You'll see in some developments where there might be a sculpture or a mural or some other interactive feature kind of beyond your basic features. So that's something that they meet some placemaking experiences, but maybe don't go above and beyond. Incorporate sustainability elements. They do go above some of our minimum requirements. For example, they're proposing to use Energy Star certified appliances, low flow plumbing, and then the roof they're proposing to be solar ready. Those are all things that, for example, aren't required by building codes or by city codes. So I would say they're in those aspects, they're going above and beyond for that. Stormwater treatment, low impact design, they're proposing rainwater gardens, pervious pavers where possible, and then potential use of an existing stormwater system. Again, more details would be at development stage. Ability for the developer to perform. Both Carl Bond is an accomplished developer, has developed properties within the city and other areas of the state and other areas, I believe, as well. MWF has built, again, in Savage before, and they've cited that they've developed 23 housing projects in the last 25 years, and they're continuing to build. The proposed purchase price is $70,000. That does exceed the appraisal price, and that was one of the criteria that they meet a minimum purchase price for the property. So with that, staff does recommend moving forward with the development team on the land sale. Should this move forward, the next steps would include City Council in April, and then final negotiations and a development contract with the City Council of the purchase and development contract. So with that, I will turn it over to you for any questions that you might have for me.
Questions, comments for Regina?
I have a few, yeah, if you don't mind. What was the reason to vacate the land now or last September after almost 50 years? I mean, it doesn't seem like the value is, that huge that it would really make that much of a difference to the city to sell it. So what was the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, so it was brought up by one of our council members at the time as something that they wanted the city to discuss. Particular council member, what usually happens is if either a staff member or community member or council member, maybe it's commission, has something that rises to policy level discussion, typically a discussion will happen at a work session. And the council will have a discussion and decide if they want to move a project forward for either further analysis or for potential approval. This particular, so it was the former mayor brought it up, and the council discussed, and there was consensus from the council to move forward in what I'd call disposing of the land or reverting it from public right-of-way to land available for sale. And the reasons why, after that discussion, was, and I'm summarizing this, but because of there are other connections, north-south connections within the community, that it seemed to be infeasible because of the fen and the encumbrances with having to construct over that area to buy property from a private business that doesn't want to sell. You don't have a willing seller, and the topography issues. So the council majority voted that they were comfortable moving forward with reverting this back to buildable land.
I just wonder, though, was it evaluated any kind of potential conflict of interest? Because I believe the former mayor is related to Carl Bond, and being that the piece of property is owned on both sides by Carl Bond, really, I don't think any other developer could have made that work. So it sort of seems a little bit like just sort of handing it to him on a silver platter of, to do this development. Where, again, I don't think that property would have been of interest really to anyone else. So it's just the timing with the former mayor's term ending, just wondering if that's been evaluated or is that been a concern?
Yeah, and that's something that our city attorney is at our council meetings and does provide guidance and input on things, and that's something that was not from a city standpoint, something that we felt comfortable moving forward with.
A couple other questions, sorry to dominate here, but do we have any data on just the current, I mean, there's quite a few other apartment buildings in Savage of like current occupancy levels. I mean, I'm certainly, if we're maxed out on our other apartments and we need more apartments, like I'm fully supportive of more housing availability, but do we have that data just to see are we fully occupied on our other apartments before we consider another unit?
I have not. I don't have that particular data in front of you. The developer does cite the Scott County housing study that does cite that there is a need for additional housing. There was a recently approved apartment building within Savage off of 154th Street. I don't know the occupancies right now, but what I can say is developers aren't going to build if the buildings are going to be empty. They need to see a return, and there's a lot of investment that they put in with their team and their financial institutions that they're working with, and they're going to make sure that they're not going to sit empty.
Mm-hmm. And then the final one, is there will there be any sort of study on the potential impact on the fen, or has that study already been completed?
As part of any development that is adjacent to the fen, or even if there's wetland within a property or next to a property or steep slopes, those are things that are that would go into the development stage evaluation. But as far as the fen as a whole, I don't know when the last study was done or if one is on the horizon.
Any other comments?
I have-
Fred.
Go ahead.
I was going to make a motion, so.
No, so I just wanted to pursue that a little bit further. I'm not sure, the RFP went out for a particular parcel, which turned into a much bigger parcel. Are they separate processes there will be an approval of the RFP at some point and then an approval of the development? Or will there be only one approval that includes the development and the RFP?
So since we only received one RFP, our staff recommendation will be to move forward with the proposal. And it's essentially a joint proposal with not only the city property, but with the neighboring property. So it'll move forward together. We'll want to make sure everything happens, right? That it doesn't fall through, and that's where the development contract will have some safeguards in it to make sure it happens.
So if the development doesn't go ahead, the land is still available for sale?
Right, it would not be in this form.
Okay, Mr. Chair, a couple other questions.
Sure.
The market demand, the Scott County has looked at this area. This will change the future demand in the city, which is sometimes a good thing because it might drive rent, either cap rents or bring rents down a little bit with more competition. But it would be interesting at some point to see what impact this development has on the overall demand. Does it meet the demand? Are we still short? Is it pushing the limits over demand? It would be interesting seeing that. And the CDA is looking at that because the Met Council will look at that and the impact of this project and perhaps the projects in the downtown. If they think we're we have more units than we need in Savage, they would kind of slow down their approvals for other CDA properties, perhaps. But that's all premature at this point. Commercial development, isn't MASH a commercial development?
I would consider it a commercial type development.
Their statement that
It's a unique,
it isn't right for commercial development. MASH is a big commercial development.
Yes, it is. A type of commercial development, I would say it's a very unique, very hyper-focused type of development. Maybe it doesn't appeal to, I would say not like maybe a grocery store or a restaurant where, we all need to eat, we all need to, buy groceries. It's focused on like sports training and very specific types of sports training, baseball and softball. And whereas I think the commercial development that they're alluding to is more your retail-based, service-based, open to the general, kind of community-based commercial, was their lens when they submitted and reacted to the proposal.
Sure. I mean, I like this development. I think it looks good. But I'm thinking one of the factors of commercial development is traffic generation. And MASH development, and that's my next topic, MASH does have a lot of traffic going in and out of its facility. And I wonder, I didn't see anywhere in here, I know as part of the process there will be a traffic study. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out because there's currently quite a bit of traffic at the intersection of 16 and Dakota, for instance. That intersection at times is very busy, especially around, obviously, commuting times.
Yep. Yeah, should this project move forward to development stage, traffic and access will be something that will be evaluated, that the developer will be required to provide studies on, and the city will be looking for improvements to the intersection based off of the trips that we anticipate will be derived from the proposed apartment development, again, should this move forward. So there you will see roadway improvements and as well as traffic I don't know if it'll be signal roundabout, like that will come out of a analysis and study. So what that ends up being, again, that's more at the development stage, but at this point, it's pretty conceptual.
Sure. And Mr. Chair, that would include access to transit or transit services to this facility?
We're partners with MVTA, meaning we collaborate with them and share information. MVTA is a service provider within Savage, Prior Lake, Shakopee, Burnsville, Apple Valley, Rosemont, Egan, and we keep them abreast of projects that are coming through. Ultimately, it would be up to them to decide if a transit stop is warranted near, adjacent, or within a walkable area.
And that might result in a request for a transit stop as part of this project?
That's something that would be ultimately up to MVTA.
So in your map of what you showed us, the current driveway to the three houses, is that private? Because it looks like it overlaps that driveway. In other words, looks like there's.
So one of the
Oh,
properties.
I understand, I'm sorry, but if you go to the project map, it
gonna talk
shows the project overlapping that driveway there.
One of the properties is owned by Carl Bond, and two are owned by two other individual property owners. So there may be some negotiation that has to happen on that end.
So just so we understand, there's more purchase needed to develop that map.
This is conceptual at this time, so designs could change, but it would be, our primary focus is regarding what the city owns, and ultimately, if things need to change, that's something that would occur during our negotiations.
So the primary access is to what road? To the current road to the library? Well, I don't know what the name of that road is.
Right, so Dakota would be one access, and then they're showing.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Yep. Last question was about stormwater. Are they you think they need to develop any of their own stormwater ponds, or is there a city stormwater pond there?
There's an existing stormwater pond that was part of the Cherrywood Point development, and they're going to analyze to see if there's still room using that, or if they need to create a new stormwater pond.
I'm sorry, you said which development?
The Cherrywood Point, it's a Savage Senior Living that's just adjacent to the library right over here.
Okay, so they don't need any of the MASH stormwater ponds?
That's something that will be evaluated at development stage, but that's something that
But I assume
is unknown at this point.
the MASH stormwater ponds were only for that development?
I don't know.
I'm sorry?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have that level of detail.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to just piggyback quickly on both what Katie and Fred had said, but the kind of baseline question there. Reference was made to the Scott County study, and a housing number was put in there, and then the quote of approximately $900,000, so that's, what, $3,300 a unit or something. So has staff checked those numbers for reasonable accuracy, that
Yeah,
they're being quoted correctly here?
It's a great question. To be honest, I have not cross-referenced that. I would be looking at the apartment building that was built just south of Lifetime, kind of as a comparable. But unfortunately, I don't have that comparison for Economic Development Commission right now.
Okay. Will be checked, I'm sure, though.
Yes.
So, good. Faisal, I believe you were.
Yes, I have two questions. The first one is there a possibility that we can request or require the potential developer to include more than 2 bedrooms, like larger 3 bedrooms or so, since they're growing, working families in the communities. That's one question. The other question, I want to say it one time, is I don't see any like playgrounds or something like that. Is that also something that we can think about through the process, or if it's already there, you can also tell us?
Yeah. Can you repeat that? You'd mentioned you didn't see.
The units are 2 bedrooms.
Yep,
the
okay.
Capacity. So can we have like 3 bedroom
From
capacity? Maybe we can think about that way. Yes.
Like multi-generational
Multi-generational
families.
families, yeah.
From a economic development standpoint, if you see something that's not in the proposal that you as a commission amongst yourself discuss and there's consensus on that you want to provide as a recommendation for council to consider in negotiating with the developer, I would encourage you to do that. So if you would like to encourage as a recommendation to include 3-bedroom units within the mix, you can do that. And again, discuss that amongst yourselves, decide if that's something as a commission you feel strongly about, and then if so, you could provide that as a recommendation. And that's with, any of the elements where it's either they don't meet, or as, maybe it's unknown that you want more clarity, or would suggest that the council has more clarity when they're making their decision. You can voice that and make that part of your recommendation.
And I think Faisal's other comment was that there doesn't appear to be any sort of like playground or park or anything for families. And I think that's something that
yes.
should be included as a recommendation as well.
And have you considered that? Yes, I didn't see that, yeah.
And that's something you can recommend as well.
Because there's really no parks right in that area, like not within walking distance.
Not active parks as part of the Parks Master Plan, park search area. It is envisioned that there would be some sort of active park north of McCall and west of this property, but where that would be sited, we don't know yet.
Mr. Chair, just to that
Yes.
point, when would we have the opportunity to make those comments?
So this is your opportunity. So discuss as part of your recommendation, again, if you feel you want to add to staff's recommendation or you want it to be something different to council, now is your opportunity, because council will be seeing this in April and they'll take into consideration your feedback and recommendation.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. So the comments would have to be made.
Comments will have to be made now, because council will be reviewing the proposal, or the offer to buy, and to move forward at their meeting in April.
Yes.
So if we want to make any recommendations that we would like the council to consider as they're negotiating this, we need to do that at the table today.
So again, I'm hearing this is the last opportunity for us to make comments?
I
Yes.
believe it would be, yes.
I had one more question. Regina, you had mentioned that just recently there was another apartment complex approved. I think that was more on the southern side of Savage. Do they need to be notified, or, because I mean, that may change their potential business model or their, expectations of occupancy if then now potentially another large project were to be approved. Is there any consideration for that, or is that just kind of part of the business?
Yeah, it's just part of the business, private market. They are aware.
Is it the same company,
No,
the same developer?
no, no. It's a different company, but they're certainly abreast of what's going on in the
Okay.
city and surrounding areas.
What's the,
I was just
You
going to
have a
say,
question?
Mr.
Go
Chair,
ahead.
the one thing
Yes.
I wanted to add for the record is similar to what you had brought up, and it's just related to ensuring kind of the integrity behind the property tax estimate and ensuring that it's somewhere close to that versus a wide range. But I do think, you're taking something that's currently not yielding the city really anything and turning it into an opportunity to generate some revenue there. So I like that, and it seems to sort of align with the goals that the city has laid out. So, but just would be interested in that piece of information as well.
I'd like to recommend approval of this proposal, that we recommend to the city council that they approve the development as it was presented to us today.
It's a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I would second that.
Okay, motion and second. Is there any discussion on that?
I mean, do we, well, I just, first of all, I just want to say again on the record, I still have some concerns just kind of about the conflict of interest and how the whole thing came about. So, but if the majority wants to make that recommendation, do we need to include the, suggestions we had at this point, or?
Yeah, I believe you
like
would.
recommendation with-
That would be appropriate to do that, if
with,
you'd like to
or-
amend the motion to
Yeah.
include any additional recommendations to the council.
Yes, I would like to suggest that, we should require the developers to include more than 2 bedrooms, at least 3 bedroom, since there is a growing working families in the community, and also playgrounds. I also have a question. As I was going through the report, the possibility of having only one potential developer at this point through the process. So I'm asking questions about the reasons why we don't have any other potential developers at this stage. So if we can have a clear answers on that, we can be very clear on that before we go forward with it.
I think there's the nature of it would not even allow anyone else really to bid for it, because it's such a narrow parcel that really the only one who could develop it is the one who also owns the land on each side. That's why I just have some concerns about kind of the integrity of the whole process of, it seems like it was intentionally set up for this company to be able to purchase and develop, and not really, it wouldn't even have been feasible, I don't think, with such a narrow property for anyone else to have even come forward with a plan. So it's a valid point, but I think no one else could have made that work unless they also somehow purchased the adjacent property, yeah.
And that was actually mentioned in the appraisal report. It said that in order to make it work, someone would have had to have bought those properties as well. So,
Mr. Chair, I have a
Yes.
question on what motion we're actually voting on. This is different than what Commissioner proposed a minute ago.
the motion on the table is to approve, is to recommend approval to the council as it was presented to us. I believe an amendment to the motion was asked.
Well, I'd have to agree to that in order for that to happen.
That's correct.
And quite frankly, I think it's fine the way it is. I think by suggesting or requiring or whatever that 3-bedroom or larger units be part of the development decreases the economics of the whole project, because it would significantly reduce the number of units that are available. By looking at the renderings of what this developer has done, this is certainly a market rate development, not something different. And so I think that's in Savage's best interest to, as we learned last night and as we've known, we're out of land, out of developable land for housing and that sort of thing. So to have an opportunity to, a very viable project come forth that has true potential and benefit for the city, and especially in creating, especially where it's located, I don't have a problem with the fact that some relative of the past mayor owns the property. That to me is not an issue at all. I don't see where that impacts transparency or anything of the point. I think it's more a matter of the viability of the project. And I think as it was presented here today, and what the council would be voting on is a needed thing for Savage. And as a result, I'm reluctant to start adding a lot of caveats to the motion or to our recommendation that could potentially hamstring the council in their approval process and being able to develop that property.
Having heard that, maybe a way around this is to take the motion as you've said, and if there is a concern on the part of the commission to add as additional comments in addition to the motion, the comments that were made.
Sure.
Concerned that if the market, to request that the council also in their negotiations, if the market so holds that 3 bedrooms would be viable with some play area around there, and also the question of the propriety of it, if it has been raised previously by the council or should be raised in the future, we can make those as recommendations as well, in addition to the motion itself on the.
There's nothing saying that we, as individual commissioners, can't petition an individual council member or the mayor or whatever with some of these concerns, and they can determine what they want to do with them from there. I think our role as a approval body is a recommendation body, not giving final approval, is just kind of a yes or no type of thing. Is this a good project for the city or isn't it? And I don't see any reason for us to say that it is not a good project for the city to pursue.
Mr. Chair, I assume the comments that in the discussion we've had will be included in the minutes.
Yes, we will include the minutes. I'll also, in my report to council, provide a summary, not only just the motion, but kind of a summary of the discussion as well.
So, Mr. Chair, I go back to my original question. I'm looking at the motion that's on the screen right now, which is not the same as the commissioner's motion. And I'm wondering whether we should have 2 motions. One, to move ahead with the sale as proposed. And secondly, a motion that would fit Mark's comment about the overall development. I think it would be appropriate to have 2 motions.
Well, I'm a little confused because I thought that's what Mark's motion was.
He did not mention the RFP in his motion.
Well, what I thought I was recommending was what's on the screen.
No, there was another. Go back one, if we could. I thought that's what you were proposing.
No, that's not what I was meaning to propose.
That's what was on the screen when you made your motion.
Well, that may be, but that's what I was recommending was this.
Okay.
What I was attempting to. Obviously, I didn't articulate it correctly.
No, that's fine. I saw 2 screens, 2 different wordings, and I wasn't sure what we're voting on.
So to clarify, your motion is to recommend moving forward as
Yes.
recommended by the staff.
Yes.
Okay.
To clarify, I second that.
Clarify, you seconded that, okay. And if we move ahead with that motion and make our other feelings known, is that okay for these commissioners?
I'm going to oppose it. I'm just
Okay.
going to tell you right now, so,
Okay.
but, you know,
Sure.
my thoughts have been on record, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Having said that then, I'd call for the vote. We have a motion to move forward with the recommendation of the staff to move forward with the proposed land sale. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, there's one vote opposed. I believe the motion passes. Also, I think that if you include in your report all the comments that have been made regarding all the other issues, I think those are important to move forward to the council as well.
I will. Thank you. Thank you.
Are you just going to stay up for the next one? Okay.
So at the last meeting, Chair Erickson asked if I could add the citywide bus tour to the agenda just for early discussion. So for those that weren't on the commission last year, I became the staff liaison. I think it was officially in February of 2023. And when I became the liaison, one of the things that we did early on was created kind of this action list of things that were under the scope of the Economic Development Commission, things that the commission wanted to accomplish, things that were kind of directives of city council. And so one of those items was to do a citywide bus tour. And it's my understanding in the past that's something that had been done, very well received. And it's just a great, fun way to get out and see what's going on in the community. You know, when you're in the council chambers, you're looking at maps or maybe plans, and maybe you live in the southeast part of Savage, but don't get around to the northern part and vice versa. So it's good to get out in the community and see what's going on. Also, it's an opportunity for you to engage with other people. So in this particular, in the fall of 2023, when we had the bus tour, we invited the Equity Commission, the Parks Commission, council members, as well as the Planning Commission. So there's opportunity for interaction with other commission members too, to hear about what's going on and kind of through their lens, how they're looking at projects that might pass through them as well. So we utilize Minnesota Valley Transit Authority for the bus because we're in their service provider area. They donate bus time and buses for community type engagement events. So we had arranged for them to meet here at City Hall. And we went through the city. It was a pretty fast bus tour. Brad Larson did the narration. We didn't stop to get off the bus because we were pressed against time with, it was, again, early fall, I believe, so it was getting dark around 5 p.m., 5:30. So it was a kind of a race around the city to make sure we were done before it got too dark. So started here at City Hall. We drove past the vacant land to the west of City Hall, pointed out developable areas west of MASH, went north on 13, pointed out some of the challenging sites that we have that are encumbered by fen, electric power lines, wetlands, and then passed by some what I'd call opportunity sites, sites that have currently a lot of outdoor storage. There is potential for maybe future industrial newer buildings within that area. We passed by the Dan Patch line, which we can now talk about the potential of it becoming an active line sometime in the future for transit, maybe light rail transit or commuter rail. We pointed out the downtown area. So at that time, we were in the midst of doing the downtown redevelopment visions. We pointed out things like the MW Savage School that's owned by 191 that has been closed for quite some time, and that opportunity as well as some other opportunity sites within the area. We passed by the Minnesota Valley Transit Authority owned property that's currently a park and ride behind the McDonald's off of 42, which is a transit-oriented development site where we expect future multifamily there. We then drove through Burnsville Parkway into Burnsville a little bit and then came back into Savage on 154th and passed by Linden Cove, which is a new housing development, passed by the future Gallery Savage site for the apartment building, the future Harbor Suites site, and then into Prior Lake Aggregates, Big Sky development. And Brad talked about the TIF district that is within that area due to the quarry operations, and talked about that long-range vision for that area. And then we went back up north, passed by Target and Cub, and talked about how those parking lots in time could be some infill sites. And so right now they're kind of large parking fields. We've seen in other communities that those end up getting filled in with sometimes it's housing, sometimes it's other type of retail, and just pointing those out that maybe in the future those could be opportunity sites. And then came back to City Hall. Again, it was pretty fast. We didn't get time off to stretch our legs and see some other sites, but we wanted to do some early planning for 2024, and there's been some ideas that we floated internally as a staff. I floated some ideas with the Chamber of Commerce too. So just from a staff lens, and I'll have you discuss, but from a staff lens, we'd like to showcase, one, I'd like to get off the bus and, walk around. I think that would be an improvement. And then also, we have, I think it's Creek Hill Park is the name of the new park that will be opening up this summer. So maybe looking at some of our parks projects and getting out and walking around and seeing what assets we have in our community, not just strictly new construction, but what are those amenities that make a community great? And so kind of highlighting some of those other things, or roadway projects and things like that. Another idea, it could be city focus, where we also invite the commission, other commissions again, and council and staff, or we could potentially partner with the Chamber of Commerce. They're looking at ways to collaborate, be great partners with the city. So one of the ideas was they do a after-hours event where typically it's at a place of business, sometimes a bar, restaurant, where they have a happy hour. Maybe it's we all board the bus at, I'm just going to throw it out there, Savage Tap. And we go on the bus tour. It's with commission members, with chamber members, and then we end at the Savage Tap and have their traditional happy hour. And so because it would be Savage Chamber sponsored, you could have fun after the bus event, not on, with the city. So, but in collaboration. So just an idea. I floated the idea with the chamber. There seems to be some potential excitement about that idea. But again, another idea that we have talked about, is manufacturing month. Could this be more industrial focused? And maybe it's, we're going to 2 or 3 sites within the community, and we all board a bus and go do a little tour, and then go to another business and do a tour, and then another business and do a tour, and just celebrating Manufacturing Month. So just ideas, open to feedback. I'd love to hear what you have in mind, or any feedback from the last bus tour for those that were able to attend.
Comments?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
You threw out quite a number of ideas here, Regina, and some are more interesting to me than others. But I guess where I would come from on this, where I'm coming from on this is, I would say that you as city staff decide what it's going to be, and then tell us what it is, what you're going to do. and this is when it's going to be, and show up or not show up. Rather than, it's nice that you present all this to us. That's wonderful. You could get 5 or 6 different ideas because we each have different interests or what have you. And then now you leave here and say, now what do I do? And so I guess I would throw it back at you as city staff to decide what would be most interest to whoever is going to be included in this, and just plan it.
Other comments?
Mr. Chair, I guess
Yes.
there's three things that you mentioned. One, I like the idea of the tour. I like the idea of working with the chamber. I
Yes.
might like a happy hour after the tour. I really like the manufacturing month because there is that part along the 13 corridor that nobody ever sees. And it would be really interesting to see who those companies are, what their plans are for the future, what land is available or not available along that corridor. MnDOT has invested a lot of money in access to that port. I don't know whether that design allows for more development to occur in the port area. Those would be all great questions for that group, and it's a fairly small area. We could probably get around it, and maybe there's an opportunity to have some of the businesses in a conference room in one of those businesses, and just to have them all together and give us an idea of what they're doing down there and what their concerns are and what their plans are.
Yeah,
And
I
maybe
think
that's something
that,
that's separate too, right? You know, it could be.
Yeah, and I think Mark's point that, like the first tour, it's all going to fall on you anyway. So, and I understand that, and we can provide you with what sounds nice and what doesn't, or whatever. I think I'd agree that working with the chamber sounds like a great idea. Last time we brought all the other commissions, if we open it up to all the commissions, I think it makes sense to see a variety of things. We'll have our own opportunity as an Economic Development Commission to go visit things on our own. So, but if this is kind of a broad tour and we're doing it in conjunction with the chamber, your idea of seeing a new park or something like that is a good idea as well. So it gives everybody a little bit of an education what the other commissions are working on too. So that would be my input. Anything else? You'll come back to us with this in the next couple of months, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'll give you some progress updates and
Okay.
where we're landing on dates and times and.
Sometime when the sun's up for a while.
Yes, I know.
We've got
Felt
that.
like a race
Yeah,
last time.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you going to move back? Or
I am.
Okay, so while you're doing that, I just want to thank everybody who was able to show up to the dinner last night. We had a good time and appreciate that. We were well represented and we had a good evening. Even Carrie and Shaylee were able to show up to have their send-off for being past members. So,
Great.
next item, Chamber of Commerce update.
So Wake Up Savage, the last Wake Up Savage was hosted on February 20th. It was the day after our Economic Development Commission meeting. There were Economic Development Commission members that were in attendance, so thank you for those that were able to be there. The theme was Meet the Mayor, and I thought it was very well attended. I had attended a Chamber of Commerce Advisory Board meeting after, and they were just thrilled with the attendance and thrilled to meet, the different commission members and city staff, and just very excited about the new energy that's happening. So that was very positive. There will be a chamber after hours on April 24th from 4:30 to 6 p.m. at McHugh's. And I am working with the Chamber of Commerce and our police and fire chief to do a Meet the Chiefs event that will be in May. So that'll be hosted at the fire station, and plan to do a little mini tour too of the fire station as well. Just a note, the city is a chamber member, and because you are all commission members here, you can sign up for free. So for any of the events. So sometimes if there's I wouldn't say any of the events, but if it's like the coffees, for example, that would be something that you could sign up as a city member. So I think it's like a $10 charge that they typically have. There's no fee for all of you. So.
You're saying you're going to process my refund for the meeting? My donation?
Donation to the chamber. What else do I have? Their memberships sounds like they're going up. as far as numbers of members. And so that, again, just renewed energy, excitement about increased membership. I've heard feedback on their newsletter that people are really appreciating that weekly newsletter that goes out and the information that's pushed out through that. So they've had great readership and people clicking links within the newsletter. So that's always a good sign that people are reading their information and getting those updates. That's all I have for the chamber for now.
Okay. I have a quick question, not on the chamber, but before you get to general updates, and maybe you're going to hit this anyway. I wasn't able to attend the Highway 13 meeting that happened just before the dinner last night, so was that going to be part of the update? Or?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
So there was the MnDOT open house yesterday held here at the Savage Library. This was in regards to the Highway 13 improvements at Quinton, Lynn, Washburn, and Nicollet, straddling both Savage and Burnsville. Gosh, there were probably close to 100 attendees. It was very well attended. The first part was they had boards up showing the different options, and then a presentation, and then opportunity for question and answer. I did have to leave during the Q&A period to get over to the commissioner dinner, so I didn't hear a lot of the questions that were asked, but it seemed like a mix of residents and business owners from the areas concerned about, the impacts to access, sound walls, if those were going to be installed or not. Yep. MnDOT went through their procedures for analyzing if sound walls are warranted or not, and explained that. And something that they would be analyzing for different segments of the corridor. So, yeah, I don't have any further updates from that.
Does MnDOT put up a summary of that somewhere for those of us who weren't there to see the
will.
boards and comments of the people?
They do have a project website. They will be adding the presentation to that project website. They do, if community members have questions, if businesses, residents that are within the area, if they want a specific presentation to their, particular groups, maybe it's a church or that's in the area or a business that's in the area and they want specific outreach and a presentation, that's something that could be requested also through MnDOT. But they're there to answer questions. And
When they post that, can a link be made to the Let's Talk Savage or something like that so we can know that it's up?
we'll, I can talk with our communication staff to see how they can push out that information.
Good.
What else do I have? General updates. We did receive an application for the Meadows Second Edition. So this is a senior living facility just north of the Lifetime Fitness building, across from the Hy-Vee. They're what we consider in the planning world, they're incomplete right now, so we need more information before we process the application, before it gets scheduled for a planning commission public hearing, and then ultimately city council meeting. Ross Dress for Less is in for a amendment to their master sign plan. Part of that development, they'd want a larger sign than what their master sign plan calls out for. That triggers a need to go through a public process. They are also incomplete, so not yet scheduled. Those two particular items will eventually go on Let's Talk Savage once we deem them complete for review, and then more information will be out to the public. I guess the public is hearing now since this is a public meeting. But we will have more details once they provide more information. And then We Farm, which is right down the road, they just submitted an application last week for an interim use permit. So they're residentially zoned property, farmstead. They would like to be able to host experiences for school-age children, for perhaps a Airbnb experience, farmstead experience, as well as a farm store, so where you can buy maybe fresh produce or eggs, for example. There is some flexibility in our code that we could allow this on an interim basis. At this point, we just received the application. We're analyzing the application right now. So it eventually will need to go to Planning Commission and City Council as well, but just some things that are on the horizon. The mural, you may have seen postings on our social media about the mural. The design is up, and we're looking for feedback for final adjustments to that mural. Sounds like all the mosaic workshops are all filled up. I don't know if any of you were able to sign up for one of those, but community members will be able to work on a portion of the mural, and then they'll have their stamp, I guess, within the mural. So they'll be able to say, I contributed there eventually. What else? I think that's about it. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, thanks. Next meeting is April 16th, Wednesday morning.
Yeah, at the next meeting, agenda item will be, I'll be presenting you a draft scope of services for our economic development strategic plan that we want to kick off this year. So just think about things that, I'll have a background report and a draft scope of services for you to react to. But think about things that in the next, I'd say 5 years, 7 years, the things that you'd want to see from a economic development lens, business lens, business support lens, that you'd want us to make sure that we dig into more and look long. I wouldn't say really long range, but again, probably the next 5 to 7 years. And we want this to be a usable plan that we can hit the ground running with and actually work. So.
Good. Very good. Anything else for the good of the order? I'd like to thank everybody for their comments today. We had some really good discussion. I appreciate everybody speaking their mind, so continue to do so. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we are adjourned. Thank you.